What are the implications of the US presidential election? I'm joined by Frans Cronje, my colleague at the Center for Risk Analysis, to discuss the campaigns thus far. Frans, what is your reading of the respective campaigns of Mr. Trump and Mr. Biden up until this point? We're speaking as we're recording at about 8:30 on Wednesday evening, South Africa time.
Yeah, good evening, David. We knew it would all run through Pennsylvania in the end. That was the key for Mr. Trump. If he couldn't get Pennsylvania plus one other, and I'll say soon now about the others, then he really had no chance. Pennsylvania remains outstanding. One of the others had to be Michigan or Wisconsin, a possible outlier in Arizona that also cropped up last night, if that turned very late in that race into his favor. But short of that, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, plus Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania was the necessary condition. Mr. Biden was always going to be the winner.
So, Frans, what do you see as the risk of a protracted, uncertain vote outcome going forward?
Well, it's been a very, very close race, and we warned in the client notes over recent weeks that a clear winner one way or the other would probably be well received by markets and the broader sort of macro community. The risk would always be a contestation of the result. And if you look at the closeness of Michigan and Wisconsin, you're really talking about 60,000 votes out of, a figure approaching 8-10 million voters dividing the candidates right in the final stages of the counting. That leaves open the risk now of challenges, legal challenges, and they may delay the race for some time. And should that be the case, I think it will rattle markets just a little bit.
So, Frans, I think a very interesting outcome of this election has been the gulf between the initial polling projections and the final outcome. Do you think that this is an indictment of the pollsters?
Look, it's very difficult to poll America given the toxicity of the climate of media and often too corporate opinion. Excellent work done by the Cato Institute. We wrote about that on the online Daily Friend newspaper yesterday. Showed that an astonishing proportion of Americans across the political divide are afraid to admit to their political opinions. They fear real retribution, that they might lose their jobs, etc. And that was always going to make the job of pollsters difficult. Going into the evening before the election, many of the big poll producers, CNN, CNBC, YouGov, etc., some of them were estimating Biden on the popular vote to be a good 10 points ahead of Mr. Trump. As it turned out, the gap between the two was much closer to 2 to 3 points. So that's a vast error in the polling. It's going to make American projections and analysis very difficult, I think, into future elections.
Frans, let's look ahead now to the implications of the election going forward. How do you see markets reacting to this outcome, as well as the broader global political environment?
Well, behind the big race, the race for the presidency, there was a second and perhaps almost equally important race, and that was the race for the Senate. And I think the ideal result was one where a political balance was struck in America, where the House, the Senate, and the White House did not end up in the possession of one party. And there was concern around a Democrat presidential victory, that if the Senate also went the way of the Democrats, there would be little that Mr. Biden could rely on to prevent implementing some of the more radical tax and labor and environmental policies that Democrats had campaigned on. These were all policies that it was feared would significantly undermine American economic competitiveness. Seems the Senate remains in Republican hands. Therefore, a very fine balance is maintained in American politics. And that, I think, is going to be welcomed by markets over coming days, certainly being the case into this evening.
Well, thank you very much, Frans. That's all we have time for tonight. But I think the anticipated so-called blue wave did not materialize. That's it from me, David Ansara of the Center for Risk Analysis. If you enjoyed this content, please do give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and also check out the link in the description below to our 30-day free trial. Until tomorrow at 7 a.m., take care.